So here we are, the Radical Imagination, Bob Hamilton and Peter Morton, with an update since the last time we spoke, trying to explain how we've been active, what we've been up to.
So we'd obviously like to do quite a lot more kind of updates and kind of video filmy stuff, but there just isn't enough time in the day. But probably with a bit of help we could do a lot more, but we can only put out what we can put out. But we're just going to give you an idea of what we've been up to for the last month or so. Just a rough breakdown of some of the things that we've been involved in that seem quite interesting. And Peter's made a list here which we will be referring to.
Yes. Well, I suppose the event at the university, organised by the Commonweal. Now, the Scotch Commons is something that's really important to not only individuals but communities. These are our resources, etc. So there was a meeting to discuss what achievements have been made through the Scotch Commons process, or the common good process. That is the processes that we have to protect our land and the investment in that land. Some of these have demonstrated very successful mutual co-ops as housing associations, where the tenants are actually the owners of the co-op and their rents fund the co-op in an ethical and responsible manner.
So the Commonweal Housekeeping was basically about housing in Scotland.
Yes.
And better ideas and models of how to deal with housing. Like the ones I've got, there was people there talking about building with timber and different things like that. But it was very much a kind of, I don't know, people with money.
Yeah.
Who were suggesting different varieties of ways of building things and nice ways of building, but it's always good if you get a few grand in the bank to be playing about with these kind of ideas. But there was nothing really that you could relate to somebody staying in government or something like that.
Well, there was a housing association that was really quite an example, that did show that there is method in the madness of self-investment. And I'll say the method in the madness because if you're not looking to make at least 50% profit for your investment, then commercial interests say that that's madness. Because the ethical process here is to ensure that people have a warm, comfortable and safe home, not to maximise profit, to maximise customer satisfaction. And that's the kind of ethical model that they were demonstrating, as opposed to even the housing associations that are set up as not-for-profit. Well, the lack of investment, the lack of repairs, the increase in rents don't show that it's a not-for-profit organisation. Where that was the difference that was being drawn between the mutual cooperatives and the housing associations, where all of the investment was contained within the development, whereas housing associations are taking profits from one development and putting them into another part of their own development process.
Yeah. But I just didn't feel it's kind of relevant to people on the ground working, like the rents campaigns and stuff like that.
Yeah, it wasn't exactly the living rent.
It's
homes for
more
people,
a
not
kind
for
of
profit.
Creating policy for housing in Scotland or something, or I don't know.
Yeah.
But I didn't feel as if I came away with any ideas that I could use in the street, if you know what I mean.
No, it was probably one of the types of public meetings where it was more about the people wanting to say things rather than the people looking to hear the things that they're after.
Or to do things maybe
Yeah.
in the wider. Anyway, it's quite good that they have these things. Obviously,
Yeah.
there's always ideas that you can get.
It's a conversation,
Yeah.
and that's it. It's to feed the next part of the conversation rather than be the end result.
Mm-hmm. And you've got here NHS.
Oh, the NHS Greater Glasgow and Clyde board review, where the executive board stood around and congratulated themselves on their successes.
This is the thing you went to.
Yes, along with a number of elected representatives from the west of Scotland. And what we heard was the chairman highlighting and extolling the virtues of the work that they're carrying out. But millions of pounds being spent on buildings whilst people in the 21st century, whilst women are still dying in childbirth, whilst we've got a 50% increase in the people dying of cancer before they get treated year on year. Now again, this is, their rhetoric was one of patting themselves in the back, but what the actual figures highlighted was the ideology of austerity is not only being driven into the NHS but actually adopted by the NHS itself.
Mm-hmm.
And you're getting austere policies with whether it be the state of the buildings, the car parks, getting in and out of the buildings, or when you look at some of the statistics for healthcare acquired infections and things like that. So what we really need is some sort of funding mechanism to ethically fund the NHS. One of the things that came out of the Commonweal was the fact that we should be taxing people on the land that they've got held in investment, and that is land that whilst they sleep is making money. So whilst they're making money, there is no gains tax on that money, so that land should be taxed, and that the tax for these vast estates could quite easily support some of these improvements that are needed in the NHS. For instance, improving the 50% increase in deaths before treatment.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that shouldn't be very difficult at all to actually achieve, providing there is not only the commitment, which we know that the NHS have, but the funding. The funding is a really important thing. Whilst we have this sort of mismanagement of it's actually NHS Scotland, but it's funded by a budget set by the Westminster Parliament. So we need some sort of autonomous mechanism to fund these things. Now, part of that is obviously looking at things like land tax. Part of it should obviously be looking at ethical enterprise, and that how are the services purchased for the NHS.
Who are they speaking to in these things? You know, a board review, National Health Service.
10% ordinary people, 20% employees, and the rest are elected members. So it's a way for them to feed back to the process. For instance, the whole meeting was chaired by the Health Secretary, Shona Robertson. So again, there's an executive board, and the chairman was dictating the meeting, but it was hosted directly by the Health Secretary. And again, the members of the audience included not only local authority elected members, but parliamentary ministers within the panel and out
So
in
what
the
do they do?
audience.
Do they just go and write a review?
Well, again, it's about patting themselves in the back for what they think they've done right, rather than actually saying, well, here's some of the problems that we've got and this is how we see possible solutions. There's none of that.
Which is a lot of these events, that's actually...
Yeah, but I mean, the whole point of a review is not just to say this is what we've done right. The whole point of a review is
See what we've done wrong,
exactly,
what we could improve, etc.
Exactly, and try and come up with corrective actions. Whether it be if it's just purely down to funding, or is it down to human resources? Do they not have enough people? Now, some of that, it's kind of interlinked, because if they don't have the money, they can't pay the right type of people. But it has to start somewhere where they start looking at the reasons for failure, rather than just documenting their success.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, we could put some info about that on the website. Maybe we need to have some kind of connection lines here.
Well, again, the whole board review.
If people want to look at it further, they could.
Yep.
They could sort of, because we could just sit here and rabbit on for.
Well, the audio is available for the whole review
right, so
on the NHS website. We also we attended the WestGap Gala Day at the Kinning Park complex. Now, Kinning Park is...
And WestGap is a support group?
Anti-poverty support group. West of Glasgow anti-poverty group is what it is specifically. But it's much more encompassing than that. It's not just about anti-poverty measures, they're trying to provide support for people through the technological process of getting access to benefits, getting access to housing, getting access to the services that are needed through some of these complex interactions that are set up by the local authority, the government departments, for instance the NHS and the Department for Work and Pensions, or as we have to call them again, the Social Security.
Mm. So it was just various groups and stalls chatting a bit. It was just a day event really.
Well, it was a day really for activists to meet activists and groups to share.
And we showed some of our ideas which we could talk about further down the list here.
Yep. Because some of these ideas are being adopted and would like to be adopted by some of the other groups.
We also set up some stuff around the document, the Human Rights Film Festival, which is held at the CCA every year. It's one of the biggest documentary film festivals in Britain, I think.
Yeah. And
it seemed to do really well. It's quite a lot of people attended the different kind of workshops. We were running some workshops at the Electron Club, which is a facility within the CCA that people can use to do computer stuff or have meetings or do anything you want really, so long as it's not illegal. And it's part of an open source art gallery.
Well, open access community space.
Yeah. So we were doing some stuff in there, and we spoke to a few people about computers and open source technology and different things. Wasn't greatly attended, but then we didn't really advertise it too much. But it's a good space, the CCA. We could put up a link to that on the website about how you go about joining it and what you can do there. But so the WestGap Gala Day and the Human Rights Film Festival was just there, talking to people about the different things we're involved in. And one of them being the laptop challenge.
Well, again, it's the laptop challenge is where we've tried to achieve a figure of reusing old laptops. The figure is 50 of them. So far we've done 5, but the promises are not transpiring into people bringing the equipment in, whatever the reasons are. So we kind of had a look at what else we could do, and what we came up with was providing some small single board computers with a broadband contract for a year, prepaid. Now again, what this would allow people to do is it would be a permanent lease for as long as they need it. It wouldn't cost them anything, but they're not allowed to sell it. They would give us it back when they're complete with it. But what it would allow them to do is if they need to interact with a local authority, more and more as we've already discussed, is being done via information technology. So not only do you need the technology, but you need a contract to access it. When you're living on benefit, whether that be because you're in the asylum process or because your health issues or simply that there is no jobs, these kind of exclude you from accessing some of these services. So the whole idea was the amount of data that's being provided and the type of hardware that's being provided would allow access to basic things like filling out forms, basic email, the methodology of communication.
But I mean, the basic idea is people. It costs money to buy laptops and computers. It costs you £300 probably for the most basic laptop or whatever. Yeah. And what we're suggesting is you get an old second-hand computer, which we did. We bought one for £8, and we put on open source operating system on it. And open source is free. You don't pay for it, like Windows and different things like that. So basically, people give us old computers, and we put open source technology on them for no cost really to ourselves, and we give them to people who need computers or who can't afford a computer. And if they eventually get another computer, they can always give us it back. And the other package Pete was talking about was, look, for £100 we can give somebody the equipment to go online plus a year's access to the internet.
Yeah.
And that would be in a process you can keep the stuff, or you can, like kind of permanent lease, but you can give the stuff back and we can give it to somebody else.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know, you mentioned there, but next year you're going to have to do everything online if you're applying for money for the government and different things like that. So it's important that people can go online and have the access to being online.
And the skills.
And this is the cheapest way of doing it.
Yeah.
So we'll sort them out with laptops, we open source, and give them some information on how to run the thing.
Yeah, some basic training and some guidance.
But we need laptops, and everybody's got a laptop lying in their cupboard somewhere.
Yeah.
And if you bring them to Kinnan Park or phone us, we can come and collect the thing. You get details of the website, and we'll make sure the laptops are completely cleaned of any information. And what we can do is we can take your laptop, put the open source on it and give it back to you, and you can give it to somebody who needs it, or you can leave it with us and we'll find somebody with a good use for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can find details. We've made wee films about this
Yes.
on a website. You can check them out.
Yes.
And the next thing on the list was the living rent
Yes.
campaign.
Yes. Where we're looking for a fair approach between landlord and tenant, that the homes should be for people, not for profit. The real problem is not with profit. The real problem again is with profiteering. It's where it's a property, two identical properties. One is £365 a month and the other one is £800 a month. How can you justify almost £500 of a difference when you're getting a much lower standard?
Well, it's basically rip-off landlords.
Profiteering.
It used to be you get an unfurnished flat in Great Western Road for a tenner a week or something like that, and then they kept putting rules in to protect the tenant, but actually the rules didn't do anything for the tenant, but just increased the rents for the landlord through making unfurnished flats furnished and breakfast deals, and it's just continued for the last 30 or 40 years, and the rents are going up and up. And somebody reckoned to buy a loaf of bread, if bread stayed in the same pace as rents, it would cost you £19 for a loaf of bread. So we're talking about something that's completely out of order, and it's everybody should be a member of this. I don't know anybody who pays what you would call a fair rent. It's non-existent.
Well, even local authority.
People are actually getting bank loans to buy a flat so they can rent it out to somebody, a student. They're buying houses as an investment, and really houses are for staying in. It's for people staying in and doing. It's just so out of order. And this has been a long time coming, getting back into like setting up unions.
Yes. Because
the only way you're going to change this stuff if you get a big enough amount of people joining the living rent campaign and spreading that kind of solidarity. And my goodness, it doesn't cost you any money, and anything that can start pulling rents down must be a good thing.
Well, again, it's about creating a critical mass, a protest, and that protest isn't people standing out in the street. That's people objecting and ensuring things like rent controlled areas are brought in, ensuring that the right to repair regulations are upheld, and then ensuring that the local authorities are applying the building regulations appropriately.
Yeah.
Because they have all the powers that they need. So there's not a single rogue landlord out there that they need any extra powers to deal with. All they need is the commitment to deal with them. And this is what you get from the Living Rent.
And if you look at the website, there's a statement about links to the Living Rent, and somebody explains what they're doing and stuff like that. So you can check that out. And
well, we were at a meeting with the Culture Secretary and Lady Provost of Renfrewshire. This was a cultural conversation, and where they were looking for ideas about how do you define Scottish culture? What is the definition of Scottish culture? Again, you can't define it by a single category, but what you can do is say that Scotland's culture is one of mutual support and solidarity. Scotland's culture is that of innovation, but it's also of an enlightened process, a process where, irrespective of where your place is in society, you should have the same weight in a conversation. Whereas what we really tend to get dictated to is you're only a member of the community, we need to bring in outside agencies to provide this specialist knowledge in local communities. So again, you don't get specialist knowledge in local communities unless you go into the community. And this is what we had tried to explain to the panel that was there from the Scottish Parliament. To define culture, or to have a way to define culture by any citizen, means that citizen needs to be involved in the culture, because otherwise it's BBC, ITV or whatever TV channels.
The other thing is, look, there's still in this kind of mode about it's Paisley State of Culture, and Jerry Rafferty came from Paisley and stuff like that. Yeah. They just pull these kind of names out of personalities and stuff. And it's like the Glasgow thing as well. You got this culture. They don't mention the Enlightenment or any of these great Scottish traditions.
Yes.
We were talking about, the education system and all these great things that's come up in the culture of the land. And they're never mentioned. It's just like personalities, and they, get kids involved in the sport and this, that, and the next thing. But it's in a massive, rich culture. One of the things we suggested in George Square, why don't we have banners up saying 500 years of the People's Common Good Fund?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's something people would be proud of, and we've got it all over the place, and my generation's enjoyed it all their life. Glasgow City of Style and all this kind of nonsense. When there's all this real culture and Enlightenment politics and different things like that. I mean, there's so much. But when you go to these things, people don't get it. You talk to them about it, and it's as if they've just discovered that there actually is a bit of culture in Scotland, that's worthy of being proud of or whatever. But they're so tied up in this, how are we going to do it? How are we going to get the funding? Maybe somebody else will get the funding. And they're rushing away there and trying to make all this stuff happen. And it's always international, because that means you can spend money outside the community and all this kind of stuff. But we did, and we will talk about ideas that we've put together about the Commons and different things that's happening in Renfrew. And the potential of some of these places is amazing. Like Renfrew's next to what's it called, the big supermarket, Braehead, and people must be getting sick looking at Braehead now. And what a brilliant thing if Renfrew actually could do something different and present something different for kids, and some nice restaurants and all this. It's got the possibilities for it, and it would draw people for Braehead. The thing that killed off these communities was drawing people out of the communities into Braehead. And surely the cultural ideas we have now should be about drawing people back at it.
Definitely. And again, the definition of the culture is not just a painting, a drawing, or someone singing. it's Bell, it's Greek Thompson. We could go through a million people in our history that designed buildings, made heavy engineering widely accepted across. You could go to any continent in the planet, and what you will find is enclaves where Scottish people have went out to train, whether it be mining, shipbuilding, etc. And what you find is small enclaves that still have our culture. They still have that idea that everyone should be equally responsible, and that everyone has the ability to inspire.
Well, it was that idea, right? It was speaking about, we were speaking about the guy McCarg from Greenock, Clydebank, who, if you actually, we'll need to talk about this, we'll need to rake it out and go through it, but if you're actually talking about environmental architecture, I mean, the biggest place in the world to do it is this college in America that this guy for Clydebank started, because he couldn't do it here. You know, he had to go to America to create this. So even anybody studying environmental architecture, this is where they would go, and it came from here. You know, that all these possibilities could have happened, and these people are spread to the four winds, because we don't even understand our own culture. We don't understand the value of it, what it is and who it is, and different things like that. And I think that's why people were a bit surprised at this culture event, because their idea of a cultural event is completely different than what a cultural event is.
They were looking for a ceilidh and a dance, and somebody singing and do a wee play.
It's like having fun. That's what they mean by culture.
But
which is fine, but
that's entertainment.
Aye. Let's move on to something that was groovy and kind of exciting and surprising.
The event at the Tontine.
Aye, and it kind of tells you what you want to know.
Yeah.
And it's nice to hear it coming from someplace else.
Well, it's surprising to find comments.
It's nice to hear it come from someplace else that's actually doing it, rather than just sitting projecting ideas about how you could achieve.
Yeah, Cotec is a cooperative of technical companies providing information technology, media services in an ethical manner, where the employees themselves are the directors, the employees themselves are the shareholders, and they're the beneficiaries of all dividends. Now, where they've kind of expanded that is they've interacted with local authorities to decide what does that local authority need, then set up a cooperative with enshrined in their constitution that the profits are to be invested not only in the organisation but the community that the organisation is based in. So where you have a need from a local authority for a particular service, as opposed to going out and finding that from a multinational or a national company, having a cooperative of individual people, whether it be 2 or 3 people who provide a specific service, setting them up as a cooperative, where that means that the community then starts to own the profit from that.
Well, basically you get a company of people. Most of these guys do online stuff, you know, like web design and different things like that, and they set up a cooperative where there's not going to be a boss there. There's just going to be us, 4 people, 6 people, 10 people. We're going to decide what we're going to do and how we're going to work, and everybody's involved in the discussions and what they're going to do next. And then we pay ourselves decent wages, and then the excess money that the boss would usually get, we plough back into the company, or we use it to help start another company or encourage somebody else, or give out. You know, one of the things that I really loved was one of the companies who got a cleaner working for them, a South American lady who does their cleaning, and so they're thinking of ways of how can she join the cooperative. not just sort of being the cleaner, but how can she develop the skills to become part of the cooperative. So they put aside 50,000 quid for her education, basically, and they weren't sure what to do about it. So they just says to her, right, what do you want to do? There's 50 quid put aside, and her English wasn't that great, so she set up courses of English, and she was interested in bookkeeping, different things like that, so she set up ideas about bookkeeping. So this was a cooperative firm giving the cleaner 50 grand to upskill herself so she can join a cooperative. Now, years ago, that might not have been that unusual when firms used to actually pay to train people.
Yes.
It wasn't the colleges that were training people for cogs to stick in the wheels. Like universities used to sort of train you, educate you a bit, and then it was up to a company to pay for your education about what they wanted you to do in that company. But this is what they do, and they're happy, and everybody's kind of, there's a place full of happy workers, and with the thing Peter was talking about earlier, the community, the councils spend a fortune buying all these interfaces and all this work with IT companies who employ hundreds of people to do it, and they mess up and they do another thing. And what you get with these guys is there's maybe 29 and the 29 cooperatives involved in this idea. And imagine setting them loose in the council when they've that kind of attitude. This is about helping people, this is what our moral practice is about, this is this, that and the next thing.
Just to explain about...
Just think what kind of service you could have if you had people working with that idea.
We just need to explain a wee bit about the £50,000. Each of the employees was given £50,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
And each of the employees was then tasked with finding an investment route to benefit the community with that £50,000. Mm-hmm. It was because of the limited language skills and the limited exposure to our cultures and the very fact that she did have so little skills that they decided that it would be a far more ethical use of the money, because obviously she was living in a lower wage because the type of work. So they deemed it a much more ethical process to allow her to invest it in her own furtherment rather than just the community's furtherment. Now that's the thing that would obviously run amok within these processes, because the minute that you start getting these companies investing their profit in the community, then again, as you say, when it becomes another company, then it self-replicates and it propagates, and the next thing you know, then you've got local authorities that don't need to enforce austerity measures, because not only are they getting a much closer related system which costs them less, but the profits that are coming from that are being invested back into that same community.
I mean, it just seems natural.
Yeah.
It just seems like a normal thing for people to do to support each other.
If you take
but the situation becomes so abstract that people look at this as a kind of fantasy, but really that's how firms used to operate.
They call it utopia.
They were kind of cooperatives. They might have not had the whole kind of thing as we're a cooperative and it's all kind of trendy, but they did have that thing about training people. Even the worst of them always gave out good training. You get DC Thompson or something like that who were sharp anti-union people for the word dot, like 50 years ago, and they could rout out union members. But at the same time, a lot of people who would train with DC Thompson says it was the best training you'd ever get. And they would send your granny...
Because it makes financial sense for the overall organisation.
Well, they would send your granny birthday cards and all this stuff. The only thing that you wouldn't get off them was money. You know what I mean? It was like a pay rise or whatever. But you found very few journalists, and there's a lot of really guys that are pretty well known who trained with DC Thompson, and they don't really have a bad thing to say about them because they were set up through the training. And that was, a kind of anti-union kind of firm. And we need to get back to this idea about if a firm wants to train somebody, they have to pay for that training. You don't get the taxpayer to pay for it through our universities. We send our kids to universities to learn about the world and look after themselves when they come out, and they never learn how to create trade unions or anything like that. You know, that'd be frowned upon. But they're learned how to cater to business the whole time, but they're not allowed to cater for their own well-being. And getting back to this kind of idea is...
Well, I mean, again, as we're trying to say, it's not all about defining problems, but here we're trying to define a solution. So we have all these either completely disused or underused common good assets that if we put one of these cooperative entities inside one of these common good assets, these buildings that I'm talking about specifically, so if we put a host cooperative organisation into one of these common good assets that is feeding the local authority with their services and actually supporting the building and bringing the building to the attention of the community, and also funding the building in a way that the community can get use from it. These are part of our understanding of what Scottish culture really is, and that is innovation, understanding what's needing to be done and thinking of new ways of approaching it, rather than the same old corporate business model where you're looking for return on investment capital. It's not about that.
Yeah.
It's about giving people
return on community capital.
That's it. That's exactly it.
Co-op, community ownership, profit.
That's exactly it. With a co-op, as Bob just said, if you look at it from a perspective of the community, they then get ownership not only of the profit but of the space that they get from that profit, because that profit doesn't go into a bank account. That profit will be supporting activities and events within the common good space that they're hosted in.
But I mean, the problem is people don't... Well, the common good's been around for 500 years, so has been people about a long time who thought a collectivist idea about looking after themselves was a good idea, and it's lasted that amount of time.
Yeah.
And it's a more natural way for people to live their lives, is looking after each other and all this kind of stuff. But when you speak to people about some of this stuff, they just look at you as if you're daft. You know, people have to loosen up and allow folk to do it. You can't have somebody in the dole get in, sitting at a computer all day long, filling in forms for jobs that don't exist. You know, where's the innovation in that?
Yeah.
How can you use their imagination if you're frightened about being homeless, being sanctioned, being this, how can people innovate with that kind of idea?
And as we spoke about, the size of the rents means that with the low paid work that's available, they can't afford to live, because the minute they take a job, then it excludes them.
Which is in the living rent thing, the wee lassie in the beginning of the living rent thing, it's just a rock and a hard place. You know, the dole's harassing you to get a job. But
you'll find this in BBC, you'll find this in mainline media.
You can't pay your rent, and then you know you get a job, and the job isn't get enough to pay your rent. Yeah, even the guy at Google, you know, the people in California that they're appealing to the guy who owns Google, whatever his name is. You know, he goes in and he wants to talk to his workers, you know, make sure everything's okay, and they're saying, well, we can't afford to live here. We can't afford to, and these guys are making good money, but they still can't afford to live in Silicon Valley or anywhere near it. You know, so you get a guy it's like people in South America sitting on trains for 2 hours going to their work there and back. This is people that's making good money that can't even afford to rent a place anywhere near their work in Silicon Valley. So
what hope is there for somebody on minimum wage or a 0 hours contract? Right? How do they get the independence of having a home? Because affordable homes are not affordable for people in that category. Affordable homes are only affordable to the people who have a large amount of disposable income, and that doesn't cover very much of the community.
But it's very tough for people. It's tough, and it's okay coming up with ideas, this and that and the next thing, but if you're in that situation, it's very difficult to lift your head. You know, but there must be. I mean, there's people who are reasonably comfortable in could take a few chances or put some money into it or
Yes.
something, or because, I mean, how can anybody be happy with the situation that's going on just now?
Yeah.
How can you enjoy that relative security with the amount of stuff that's going on underneath you or up the road for you and stuff like that?
Yeah.
But that's what we're here for.
Well, again, to highlight things, but also to discuss some of the possible solutions and hopefully enter into a conversation with people based on what we're saying and get some sort of, whether it be feedback or critique, because we don't say that we've got all the answers. All we say is we're trying to find the right questions.
And the other reason we go to these things, you can go to these Commonwealth Housekeeping and the thing in Paisley about Scotland's cultural, and we were doing some workshops a couple of years ago, and one of the ideas was taking young people to the city chambers and the university and just showing them the halls of power, as it were, just saying, look, anybody can come in here, the people in this building are just the same as you and me, same blood coursing through their bodies, these are the guys that's running the city and stuff like that. If you imagine them, you might think there's something else, there's some authority there, but there's not. They're just ordinary punters that you can approach, you can talk to, you can convince, and you can do this. And going to these cultural things, it's the same. Everybody's got ideas, and I think a lot of people that go to these things, they work for a living, they get money off a culture, and everything they think about is channeled through maintaining the wages or paying their mortgage and different things like that. And you need all this fresh innovation. You need people who have got ideas but they don't have the wherewithal or whatever to do it, and you need to let them in and you need to encourage them, because it's going to get awful bland. So that's probably enough to begin on with. And we'll try and put up some updates, but we're usually around Kin Park on a Sunday.
Definitely.
If you want to talk to a human being, or you can check out the website, or if you want to get involved, let us know if you have any good ideas, if you think there's anything that'd be worth looking into.
You'll find an email address
That's
and
what
a
we're here
telephone
for.
number. Contact us, have the conversation.
And it's goodbye from him.
And it's goodbye from him.